"Please don't take my baby," she cried until the rancher said, "I'll take you both." The wind blew harshly across the dry, dusty road that led to the small town. It carried the scent of sagebrush, soil, and something faintly sweet like the nearby hay fields. In the middle of that road stood a young mother, her body trembling, her face streaked with tears. She clutched her infant tightly against her chest, as if holding the baby closer could somehow protect them both from the world that seemed to be closing in. The child, no more than a few months old, stirred in her arms. Its tiny hands waved in the air, innocent and unaware of the fear that gripped its mother. She looked around at the small crowd of townspeople who had gathered nearby. Their faces were a mix of curiosity and concern, but no one stepped forward. Everyone seemed unsure, hesitant to intervene. She felt the weight of the town's eyes like 1,000 stones pressing against her chest, and panic bubbled up inside her like a storm. "Please, please don't take my baby," she cried, her voice breaking. Her knees weakened, and she sank to the ground, holding the child as tightly as she could. She could feel her own heart racing, threatening to burst through her chest. The world she had known had been hard enough, but now it felt impossible. She had survived poverty, loneliness, and betrayal, but the thought of losing her baby, her reason for living, was unbearable. She had no family to turn to. The relatives she once trusted were gone, scattered, or unable to help. Her neighbors, kind as some were, could not intervene in matters of authority. And now, the authorities, people who held power over her and her child, were approaching. They moved slowly, deliberately, as if sensing her fear and trying to gauge the right moment to act. Her mind raced. She remembered the nights when she had no food, when she had walked miles just to find water, when she had cried herself to sleep because she had no one. And now, the thought of losing this small, warm life in her arms made everything she had endured seem unbearable all over again. A few of the townspeople whispered to one another. Some shook their heads. Some offered half-hearted suggestions about what she should do. But their words were empty, and she knew it. No one had stepped forward to protect her before. Why would they start now? Her cries grew louder, desperate, almost pleading with the universe itself. Then, a voice cut through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. It was calm but firm, steady and clear. "I'll take you both." The words seemed to hang in the air, impossible and yet full of hope. She looked up, startled. There, standing a few feet away, was a man. He was tall, with broad shoulders that seemed to carry strength naturally. His clothes were simple, worn from work but clean. His hands were rough, the hands of someone who worked with the earth, the animals, and life itself. His eyes, sharp and observant, met hers without judgment. They were filled with a quiet confidence that made her feel both nervous and strangely relieved. For a moment, she could not speak. The words that had come from his lips sounded like a promise she had longed to hear but never expected. She studied him closely, trying to see if there was any sign of deceit or selfishness. But there was none, only honesty and a willingness to step in where others had faltered. Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The baby fussed in her arms, and she held it tighter. Her body shook not just from fear, but from hope that perhaps someone could really help her. "I'm a rancher," he said simply. "I have land, I have room. I can keep you both safe." His voice carried the kind of authority that comes from experience, from someone who has faced challenges and survived them. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Her mind spun. A rancher, safe, could she trust him? She had been burned before, deceived by people she had trusted with everything. And yet, there was something about him that felt real. Something in the way he stood there, strong and steady, made her believe, even if just a little, that this could work. I don't know you," she whispered, her voice shaking. How can I trust you?" "You don't have to trust me yet," he said, his voice calm. "Just come with me, I'll protect you, I'll protect your baby, that's all you need to know right now." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time there was a different kind of moisture in them. A mix of relief and fear and hope all rolled into one. She looked at the baby, and the tiny face staring back at her seemed to give her strength. The baby did not understand danger, had no idea of what could happen, but it was innocent. And for this little life, she would take any risk. Slowly, trembling, she allowed herself to be guided forward. Every step felt heavy, every movement uncertain, but the rancher stayed close without touching her, giving her space yet offering protection. He led them down the dusty road toward his truck parked nearby. The townspeople watched silently, their whispers fading as they realized this was not a scene they could influence anymore. The mother climbed into the truck first, holding her child tightly. She felt the leather seat beneath her, the warmth of the sun on her back, and the smell of hay and earth from the open windows. The rancher climbed in beside her, starting the engine with a calm efficiency. As the truck rumbled to life, she looked out the window at the town receding in the distance. Fear still gripped her heart, but it was now mixed with something she had not felt in a long time: hope. The road ahead was long, winding through fields and pastures, the landscape wide and open. The rancher drove slowly, giving her time to adjust, to breathe, to feel that perhaps, just perhaps, she had made the right choice. He did not ask questions about her past, did not push her to explain why she was in this position. He simply drove, letting her thoughts settle while keeping an eye on the road ahead. As they drove, the baby settled against her chest, lulled by the motion of the truck. She began to feel a sense of peace, small but powerful. The fear that had consumed her for weeks, months, maybe even years, started to loosen its grip. She dared to imagine a life where she could feel safe, where her child could grow without the constant shadow of danger. The rancher noticed her glance and offered a small, reassuring smile. It was not a smile of judgment, nor of pity. It was a smile of understanding, as if he could see the weight she had been carrying and acknowledged it without question. By the time they reached the ranch, the sun was low in the sky, painting the fields gold and amber. The ranch stretched out before them, wide and welcoming. Horses grazed quietly in the distance, the barn stood strong against the evening sky, and the air smelled of fresh hay and earth. It was a place that spoke of life, hard work, and stability, a place where they could begin again. The rancher led them out of the truck and toward the main house. He spoke softly about the house, the rooms, the land. He told her she could choose where she wanted to sleep, assured her that she and the baby would have everything they needed. The mother's heart swelled with gratitude and disbelief. She had not imagined such kindness existed in her world anymore. That night, as the mother and baby settled into a small, comfortable room, she finally allowed herself to breathe. The baby slept peacefully in her arms, and for the first time in weeks, she did not feel the crushing weight of fear. She looked out the window at the stars above, feeling the cool night air on her face, and whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. She did not yet know what challenges awaited them on the ranch, what obstacles she would have to face, or how her past might catch up with her. But in that moment, with the baby in her arms and the rancher's quiet presence nearby, she felt something she had not felt in a long time: safety, hope, and the possibility of a new beginning. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of the land, of life continuing despite hardship. And as she held her child close, she realized that maybe, just maybe, they were not alone anymore. The morning sun rose slowly over the wide fields, painting the land in soft gold and warming the earth beneath. The mother awoke to the gentle sounds of the ranch, the low whinny of a horse, the soft clatter of hooves on dirt, and the distant crowing of a rooster. She turned slightly to see her baby stirring in the small cradle beside her bed, tiny hands stretching and eyes blinking against the light. The mother took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the room around her. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of calm. She remembered the terror and despair of the previous days, the desperate cries for help on the dusty road, and she realized that somehow they had made it to a place of safety. A place that, though unfamiliar, held the promise of a fresh start. The rancher was already outside, walking toward the barn. She could hear the sound of him speaking softly to the horses, calling them by name as he guided them from their stalls. There was a rhythm to his movements, a quiet confidence that spoke of years spent working with the land, caring for animals, and living in harmony with the natural world. She watched him from the window, feeling a mixture of admiration and curiosity. He was strong and capable, yet there was a gentleness in the way he moved. After feeding the baby, she stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The ranch was vast, stretching out into fields that seemed to go on forever, dotted with barns, fences, and grazing animals. The wind carried the earthy scent of soil, hay, and fresh grass, and for the first time in weeks the mother felt a sense of wonder. There was life here, real and steady, a life that she could touch and feel and be part of. The rancher noticed her and waved. "Morning," he said. His voice was calm, reassuring, the same voice that had promised to protect them both. "The animals need feeding. Do you want to help?" She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she had the strength or knowledge to care for them. But the rancher's gaze was patient, encouraging, and something inside her stirred. She nodded slowly. Yes, she said softly. He led her to the barn where the horses were waiting. He showed her how to brush their coats, how to check their hooves, and how to lead them safely to the pasture. At first, her movements were clumsy, but the rancher was patient. He corrected her gently, never rushing, never criticizing, just guiding. She began to feel a quiet pride as she worked, realizing that she could learn, that she could contribute, and that she was capable of more than she had believed. The baby, wrapped in a soft blanket, watched from the edge of the barn, cooing and smiling at the new surroundings. The mother glanced at the child and felt a swell of emotion. This baby had come into her life as a small, fragile being, completely dependent on her. And now, here on the ranch, she could see that the child could be happy, safe, and loved. After tending to the horses, they moved on to the cattle. The rancher taught her how to check the animals for signs of illness, how to guide them through the gates, and how to feed them properly. Her hands became steadier, her confidence growing with each task. The rancher watched silently at first, then offered encouragement. "You're doing well," he said, smiling briefly. It was not a smile of flattery, but a recognition of her effort and growing skill. As the day went on, the mother discovered a rhythm to life on the ranch. There was work to be done, yes, but there was also space for peace. She learned to rise with the sun, to follow the cycles of nature, and to find satisfaction in the simple acts of caring for animals and the land. Each task, no matter how small, brought a sense of accomplishment that she had not felt in years. During the afternoon, they took a break by the creek that ran along the edge of the property. The baby played on a blanket nearby, giggling as water rippled around tiny hands and feet. The mother sat beside the rancher, feeling the warmth of the sun and the gentle flow of the water. She spoke cautiously at first, asking about his life on the ranch, how he had come to live here, and why he had decided to help her. The rancher answered simply, telling her about the years he had spent learning the land, the animals he had raised, and the importance of caring for both. He spoke without boasting, without exaggeration, just plain truth. She listened, feeling a growing sense of trust. There was nothing hidden, no pretense. He had offered help when no one else had, and he had kept his promise. In those quiet moments by the creek, she began to relax, to let her guard down just a little. She realized that for the first time in her life, she was not alone. She had someone to rely on, someone who would not abandon her or her child. And that realization was powerful, bringing tears to her eyes, but tears of relief and gratitude rather than fear. Evenings on the ranch were different from anything she had known. The sky turned pink and orange, birds returned to their nests, and the animals settled down for the night. She would rock the baby to sleep, feeling the steady rhythm of the child's breathing against her chest. The rancher often joined her, sitting quietly nearby, offering a presence that was strong and comforting without words. Sometimes they would sit together in the barn, listening to the sounds of the night. Crickets chirped, the wind rustled through the trees, and the occasional horse nickered softly. These moments were peaceful, almost magical. The mother began to feel that this could be a life worth holding onto, a life where she could heal from the wounds of the past. Over the following days, she continued to learn and grow. She discovered the joy of simple tasks, the feel of hay in her hands, the satisfaction of mending a fence, the quiet contentment of feeding the animals. She learned to move with purpose, to act with care, and to take pride in her efforts. Each day brought a small victory, a new skill, or a moment of happiness. The rancher remained patient and steady, never rushing her, never making her feel inadequate. He shared his knowledge freely, always ensuring that she felt supported. Slowly, she began to trust not only him but also herself. She realized that she could care for her child, that she could provide a safe and loving home, and that she had the strength to face the challenges ahead. The baby thrived as well. With each passing day, the child grew stronger, happier, and more confident. Laughter became a regular sound in the house, and the mother felt a sense of joy that she had almost forgotten. She would watch the baby explore the small corners of the ranch, marveling at every new discovery, and feel a sense of pride that warmed her heart. One afternoon, while working in the fields, the mother paused to look around at the land. The sun was high, casting long shadows across the grass. She realized that this place, this wide, open, and alive place, had become something more than just land. It was a refuge, a sanctuary, a home, and she knew that she was beginning to belong. Even the townspeople, who had watched from a distance when she had first arrived, began to see the changes. Some nodded politely when they passed, acknowledging the strength and determination she now carried. Others whispered, curious about how she had managed to survive and thrive in such a short time. But she no longer cared about their opinions. She had found a place where she was safe, where her child was happy, and where she could begin again. By the end of the week, the mother had settled into a routine. She rose with the sun, tended to the animals, fed and cared for her baby, and helped with chores around the ranch. She began to understand the rhythms of life here, the balance between work and rest, and the importance of patience and care. Each day brought challenges, but also rewards, and she felt herself growing stronger and more confident. The rancher remained a steady presence, guiding without controlling, supporting without overshadowing. He never forced her to act before she was ready, and he celebrated her successes, no matter how small. Slowly, a bond formed between them, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. She began to see him not just as a protector, but as someone who believed in her, who had given her the chance to start over. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple, the mother sat on the porch with the baby in her arms. The rancher joined her silently, and for a while they simply watched the land, listening to the sounds of the evening. Crickets, the low hum of the horses, the gentle rustle of the wind through the trees. It was all peaceful, grounding, and healing. The mother felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had come to the ranch scared, alone, and desperate. Now she felt strong, hopeful, and safe. She knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and fear, but she also knew that she could face them. She had a home, a protector, and a child who was thriving. And that was enough. For now, it was more than enough. As night fell, the mother laid her baby down in the cradle, tucking the blanket around the small, warm body. She watched the child's chest rise and fall with steady breaths and felt a deep sense of peace. The rancher stood quietly nearby, watching over them both. In that moment, she realized that she was beginning to believe in the possibility of a future, a life where fear no longer ruled, where love and trust could grow, and where she and her child could flourish. The ranch was no longer just a place. It had become a haven, a refuge, and a home. And for the first time in a long time, the mother allowed herself to hope. The morning air was crisp, carrying a faint scent of earth and hay across the ranch. The mother had begun to feel a rhythm to her days, wake up with the sun, care for her baby, tend to the animals, and help with chores. Life was no longer a constant struggle for survival. It was still hard work, but there was a sense of peace she had never known before. The baby laughed more freely, the animals responded to her touch, and she felt a small but growing confidence with each passing day. But peace, she soon learned, could be fragile. One afternoon, as she fed the horses in the barn, she noticed a stranger approaching the ranch from the dusty road. He was dressed in dark clothes, moving quickly, and his eyes scanned the property as if he were looking for something or someone. A cold knot of fear tightened in her stomach. Something about him made her uneasy, a memory she couldn't quite place, but that pressed heavily against her mind. The rancher stepped into the barn just then, noticing the tense look on her face. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice calm but alert. "There's someone outside," she whispered, her hands trembling slightly as she held the baby closer. "I don't know who he is, but I don't like it." The rancher nodded, his eyes narrowing as he studied the figure through the open doors. "Stay inside," he instructed firmly. "I'll handle this." She felt a wave of relief and fear at the same time. Relief that he was there, ready to protect them, and fear that her past might be catching up with her. She watched from the barn window as he approached the stranger, his movements confident, steady, and purposeful. He spoke, and though she couldn't hear the words clearly, she saw the stranger hesitate, then retreat down the road. The mother exhaled slowly, her body relaxing just a little. "Thank you," she whispered, almost to herself. The rancher returned, giving her a reassuring nod. "You're safe here," he said. "No one is taking your baby." But she knew it would not be that simple. The stranger had reminded her that danger could arrive at any time, that her past had not forgotten her, and that she could not ignore the world outside the ranch. The peace she had begun to enjoy was real, yes, but it was delicate, and she would have to be strong to protect what she had found. Over the next few days, whispers from the town reached her ears. Some townspeople spoke in low tones about a court case, about someone claiming the right to her child. Fear returned, sharp and piercing. She felt the familiar rush of panic she had experienced on the dusty road before meeting the rancher. But this time she did not face it alone. The rancher stood by her side as she voiced her worries. "They can try," he said, his voice firm. "But we'll face it together. I know the law and I know how to protect you and your baby. You don't have to face this alone." His words gave her strength. She had spent so long feeling helpless, powerless to control her own life, that the very idea of standing up to a threat felt impossible. But with him by her side, she began to feel that she could fight for her family, that she could prove that she was a loving and capable mother. The court date came sooner than she expected. A legal notice had arrived at the ranch, delivered by an official who had no interest in comforting her. She read it with shaking hands, the words blurring through her tears. But the rancher was there, unwavering. "We'll gather everything we need," he said. "We'll show them that you're the right person to care for your baby." For the first time, she realized that standing up for herself meant more than just fighting to keep her child. It meant facing her fears, confronting the past, and proving that she could protect the baby she loved more than life itself. Together, they prepared. The rancher collected witnesses from the community who could speak to her character and the safe environment of the ranch. They gathered photos, records of her care for the baby, and examples of the mother's growing independence and responsibility. He coached her gently on what to say, how to answer questions, and how to remain calm under pressure. Every step reminded her that she was not alone. The morning of the hearing, the mother felt a tight knot in her stomach. The courtroom was intimidating: wooden benches, the stern faces of officials, and the quiet murmur of onlookers. But when she saw the rancher sitting beside her, offering a reassuring nod, she felt a spark of courage ignite within her. Her turn to speak arrived, and she stepped forward, baby in arms, her voice trembling but clear. She told her story, not in anger or accusation, but with honesty and emotion. She spoke of her love for the child, her struggles, and the effort she had made to create a safe and nurturing environment. She spoke of the ranch, the animals, and the life she had begun to build. The rancher then spoke, outlining the care, protection, and stability the mother had found on the ranch. He spoke of her dedication, her hard work, and the transformation he had witnessed in her since her arrival. His words were not just supportive, they were proof of the mother's ability to care for her child. As the hearing continued, questions came from the officials. Some were skeptical, probing for weaknesses. Others seemed genuinely concerned about the well-being of the child. The mother answered each question with honesty, her voice growing steadier with every response. The rancher's calm presence gave her confidence, and she realized that she could face this challenge. Outside the courtroom, whispers and murmurs filled the air. Some doubted her, some admired her courage, but she no longer cared. She knew she had done everything possible to protect her child, and for the first time she felt a sense of control over her life. After what felt like hours, the decision was announced. The officials acknowledged her dedication, the stable environment of the ranch, and the genuine care she provided. The child would remain with her, and the rancher's support was recognized as a vital factor in ensuring the baby's safety. Relief washed over her in a wave so strong that she nearly collapsed. Outside the courtroom, the rancher took her hand gently. "See," he said, a faint smile on his face. "You did it. You stood up for your child and you won." Tears filled her eyes again, but these were tears of triumph rather than fear. She hugged the rancher, feeling the strength and reassurance of his presence. For the first time in her life, she truly believed that she could protect her child, face challenges, and live a life that was safe and meaningful. Returning to the ranch, life settled into a new rhythm, but the memory of the threat lingered. She knew that challenges might arise again, that danger could never be completely eliminated, but she also knew that she was stronger than she had ever been. She had faced fear and uncertainty, and she had come out victorious. The baby, as always, remained the center of her world. She watched the child grow, learn, and explore the ranch with curiosity and joy. Each laugh, each new skill, reminded her why she had fought so hard and why she would continue to fight if needed. The rancher continued to guide her, not as a teacher, but as a partner. He offered advice when needed, shared his experience, and gave her space to grow into the person she was becoming. A quiet understanding developed between them, a trust born of shared struggle, respect, and the mutual goal of keeping the child safe. Evenings were spent on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields, the baby asleep in her arms. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, filled with unspoken support and companionship. She realized that she was not just surviving anymore. She was living, truly living in a place where she was valued and her child could thrive. One night, as the stars emerged in the sky, she whispered softly to the baby, "We're safe now. We have a home and we have each other." The rancher, standing nearby, nodded silently, understanding that these moments of peace were hard-won and precious. The mother knew that the world outside the ranch could be harsh, cruel, and unpredictable. But inside the ranch, she had found courage, trust, and love. She had learned that strength was not only about fighting, but also about standing firm, seeking help when needed, and believing in herself. The ranch became more than just a place to live. It became a symbol of resilience. Every fence she mended, every animal she fed, and every moment she spent with her child reinforced the life she had fought to protect. And with the rancher by her side, she knew that together they could face anything that came their way. The mother no longer feared her past, because she understood that her future was hers to shape. The court had recognized her dedication, the ranch had given her support, and her baby's laughter reminded her daily why she had persevered. She had confronted the past, stood strong, and emerged victorious. And though challenges would continue to come, she now knew that with courage, love, and support, there was nothing she could not face. The rancher's words echoed in her mind, "I'll take you both," and he had. He had taken them both, and in doing so, he had given them not just safety, but a chance at a life full of hope. The days on the ranch settled into a steady rhythm, warm and comforting, though still full of work. The sun rose over the fields like a golden promise, casting long shadows across the barns and pastures. The mother had grown into her new life, learning the strength she never knew she had. She rose early each day, cared for the baby, and tended to the animals with confidence. The work was not easy, but it no longer felt overwhelming. Instead, it gave her purpose and pride. Her baby, once fragile and uncertain, now laughed and played with delight. Crawling over blankets laid on the grass, the child reached for the soft fur of the animals, squealed at the chirping birds, and smiled at the mother's every word. Each smile, each tiny hand grasping hers, reminded the mother why she had fought so hard to survive. She could feel the love between them growing, strong and unbreakable. The rancher remained a quiet presence, always nearby but never intrusive. He worked the land with precision, his strong hands guiding him through chores that came naturally after years of practice. He would glance toward the mother and baby, offering small gestures of support, a nod, a gentle smile, a soft word of encouragement. He never demanded gratitude, never boasted of his help. Instead, his strength and calmness were constant reminders that they were safe, that they belonged here. One afternoon, the mother took the baby toward the pasture where the horses grazed. She knelt on the soft grass, holding the child just high enough to watch a foal frolic beside its mother. The baby giggled with delight, clapping tiny hands together, and the mother laughed too, the sound spilling across the field like sunlight. She felt a warmth in her chest she had never known before, a mixture of pride, love, and deep, unshakable happiness. The rancher came over to help with the animals, but he also stayed to watch the simple joy unfolding. He noticed the way the mother's shoulders had straightened, the calm in her eyes, and the ease with which she moved through the chores. She was no longer the frightened, desperate woman who had arrived at his doorstep months ago. She was strong, capable, and full of life. As evening approached, the family returned to the farmhouse. The mother prepared a small meal, the rancher assisting silently, and the baby played nearby with a handmade toy. They ate together, sharing stories of the day, laughter spilling easily between them. The mother realized that she was beginning to feel something she had not felt in a long time: belonging. She belonged here on this land, in this home, with these people and animals she had come to love. Night fell slowly, the sky turning shades of deep orange and purple before fading into a blanket of stars. The mother held the baby in her arms, rocking gently as the rancher worked quietly nearby. The animals had settled down for the night, the wind carried the faint scent of hay, and a peaceful calm settled over the ranch. She looked at the rancher and felt a sense of gratitude that went deeper than words. "You've done more than I ever imagined," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible in the stillness. "You didn't just protect us, you gave us a home." The rancher paused, glancing toward her. "You did the hard part," he said simply. "You stood up for your baby. You worked, you learned, and you never gave up. I only helped guide you." Her eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition, of understanding, and of profound relief. She had survived danger, uncertainty, and fear, and now with the rancher by her side and her child safe, she could finally breathe. The weeks turned into months. Seasons changed and the ranch transformed around them. Fields grew lush and green in the spring, animals thrived under the careful attention of the mother and rancher, and the baby grew stronger with every passing day. She began to walk, then run, exploring the vast open spaces of the ranch, her laughter echoing across the fields. The mother watched, amazed at how much joy a single small life could bring, and felt her own heart expand with love and pride. The rancher continued to support her in quiet, meaningful ways. He helped teach her how to manage the land more effectively, showed her techniques for caring for the animals, and offered guidance when challenges arose. But he never took over. Instead, he encouraged her independence, letting her make decisions and take responsibility, knowing that every step she took reinforced her confidence and strength. One day, a letter arrived from the town, reminding her of the court decision from months earlier. She opened it with a small twinge of anxiety, but as she read, a smile spread across her face. Everything was in order, her rights as a mother were secure, and her child's safety was fully recognized. There were no lingering threats. For the first time, she realized that her past could no longer control her life. She had faced it, stood firm, and emerged victorious. Even the townspeople who had once doubted her began to show respect. They noticed the changes in her, the confidence, the care, and the quiet strength that radiated from her. Some came to the ranch to visit, bringing small gifts for the baby or offering help with chores. Others simply nodded when they passed by, acknowledging the woman who had once been desperate and frightened, but had now become a symbol of resilience. The mother and rancher shared quiet evenings on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. The baby slept in her arms or sometimes played nearby under careful watch. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, filled with understanding, shared responsibility, and a bond that had grown from trust and experience. The mother realized that she no longer feared being alone or helpless. She had a home, a protector, and a child who thrived. Together they formed a family, not by blood, but by choice, courage, and love. As the baby grew older, the mother began teaching little lessons about life and responsibility. She showed the child how to care for the animals, how to respect the land, and how to show kindness to others. The rancher encouraged these lessons, often adding his own quiet wisdom, reinforcing the values of hard work, patience, and compassion. The child's laughter became the soundtrack of their lives, a constant reminder of why they had fought so hard to build this life. One evening, as the mother tucked the baby into bed, she paused to look around the room. The walls were decorated with small drawings, handmade toys filled a corner, and the gentle light of the setting sun streamed through the windows. She realized that this place, which had once been strange and overwhelming, had become a home filled with warmth, love, and security. She turned to the rancher, who stood quietly nearby. "We made it," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "We're really safe now." He nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "Yes," he said simply. "You kept your baby safe and you built a home, you did all of that." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of joy. She hugged him briefly, a gesture of gratitude and connection. They had been through so much together. The fear, the uncertainty, the threats, and the challenges, and now they could finally relax and enjoy the life they had created. The ranch continued to thrive under their care. Animals grew healthy and strong, fields flourished, and the baby grew into a curious and happy toddler. The mother continued to work hard, learning every day, finding satisfaction in each task completed and each challenge overcome. The rancher remained her partner, her guide, and her friend, offering support without ever overshadowing her growth or independence. As the years passed, the family bond strengthened. The rancher, the mother, and the child became inseparable, their lives intertwined with the land and animals they cared for. The mother often reflected on the journey that had brought her here, the desperation on the dusty road, the fear of losing her child, and the courage it had taken to accept help and build a new life. She realized that without the rancher's support and without her own determination, none of this would have been possible. But more than anything, she realized that love and trust had transformed their lives. The rancher's quiet presence, the baby's laughter, and the connection they shared had created a family stronger than any fear or hardship. And though challenges might still arise, they now had the confidence and courage to face them together. One night, as the stars filled the sky and the ranch was quiet, the mother held her child in her arms and whispered softly, "We're home, we're safe, and we're together." The rancher stood nearby, watching them both, his heart full with quiet satisfaction. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and danger, and now they had found peace, happiness, and belonging. The ranch was no longer just land. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and family. Every fence repaired, every animal fed, every moment spent together strengthened the bond between them. And the mother knew that whatever the future held, they had already proven that courage, love, and trust could overcome even the greatest challenges. Together, they had built a life worth living. A life full of laughter, safety, and love. A life where the past no longer controlled them, where hope was abundant, and where the family they had fought so hard to protect could grow and thrive. And as the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of hay and earth, the mother knew in her heart that they were truly home, forever safe, forever loved, and forever together.